Hello everyone. Today we're going to be learning about comparing fractions with the same denominator. So remember that since we're comparing, we're going to use our comparative symbols. That means we're going to use the symbol for less than, for greater than, and for equal to. Also, since we are comparing, that means we're going to have two fractions, and we're going to have to decide which one is less than, which one is greater than, or whether they are equal. Since we're using fractions with the same denominator, that means that both fractions that we're comparing are going to be broken into the same amount of pieces. Keep that in mind as we continue with the notes. So the first thing I need you to do is, of course, put your title at the very top of the page like you see here. And then I need you to break your page into 4 sections. Remember that you can do that by first marking a line down the middle, across the middle from the hole in your paper, and then breaking each of those sections in half to give you a total of 4 different sections. Remember also that you need to pause the video as you go through to write down your notes so that you have enough time. You can go back in the video if you miss something as well. Alrighty, so let's work on our first section here. The first thing I want you to do is we're going to draw 2 rectangles. Here we're going to be working with our rectangles to model the first fractions. Notice that I'm using my lines on my notebook paper here as kind of a guide. You might want to use just 1 line of your notebook paper instead of 2, like I'm using, just because you have less space than I do here. So I made 2 rectangles. I'm going to fix this one a little bit because I do want both rectangles to be equal sized. And now I'm going to break both rectangles into the same amount of pieces. For this one, I'm going to break them into 4 pieces. That means that my denominator for both of my fractions is going to be 4. Remember that we're comparing fractions with the same denominator. And since both of them have 4 equal pieces, they both have a denominator of 4. Now, to shade in the fractions, if you do have your crayons or colored pencils at home, you can use them to make it the same colors that I am. If not, just go ahead and use your pencil. So for this first one, I'm going to shade in 1 piece. That means my fraction is 1/4. For the second one, I'm going to shade in 3 pieces. That means that my fraction is 3/4. So now I have to compare them. I have the fraction 1/4 and I have the fraction 3/4. And I have to decide which comparative symbol goes in the middle. By looking at my picture, I can tell that the 1/4 has less shaded than the 3/4 does. That tells me that 1/4 is less than 3/4. Now here, I already used my comparative symbol. Now I want to put it in words. So here I showed that 1/4 is less than 3/4. Again, I was using my picture. Both fractions have the same denominator, and I know that 1 is less than 3, and that tells me that 1/4 is less than 3/4. All right, your notes should look like this. All we did was the first section. Now we're going on to the second one. For this section, I'm going to model my fractions using circles. Again, use your lines to help you make your circles as equal to each other as possible. Okay, for this one, I'm going to break my circles into 6ths. Again, we're comparing fractions with the same denominator, so both my representations need to be broken up into the same amount. They both are going to have the denominator of 6. For this first one, I'm going to shade in 5 of the pieces. That means my fraction is 5/6. For the second circle, I'm going to shade in 2 of the pieces. That means my fraction is 2/6. So now I'm comparing 5/6 and 2/6. Again, I have to decide which comparative symbol goes in between them. Looking at my picture, I can see that the 5/6 has a lot more of it shaded than the 2/6. Since the denominators are the same, I can also just look at the numerators, and I know that 5 is greater than 2. Therefore, 5/6 is greater than 2/6 because they are broken into the same amount of pieces. Now we're going to write it in words. Okay, and there I have it in words. 5/6 is greater than 2/6. Your notes should now look like this. We're going on to the third section. So I've already represented fractions in two different ways, with a bar and with circles. So for this section, I'm going to represent my fraction with a set. I'm going to draw 8 pieces, 8 different sets, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here my denominator is going to be 8. Again, since we're comparing fractions with the same denominator, that means I need to draw another set that is the same as this one, so that this denominator is also 8. Now I'm going to color 7. I'm going to shade in 7 of these pieces for my first fraction. That gives me 7/8. I'm going to shade in 7 of these. That gives me 7/8. So now we're comparing 7/8 and 7/8. Of course, just by looking at the picture and by looking at my fractions here, I can tell that these are equal. 7/8 is equal to 7/8. Now we're going to put it in words. Okay, 7/8 is equal to 7/8. Our notes should look like this. We have 3 different representations of the fractions, all with the same denominator and our comparative symbols in between with the words underneath. Now we're going on to our last representation. For this one, I'm going to represent using a number line. So I'm going to start by making my line, go across, and then another one that is the same right underneath it. Remember that we are comparing using the same denominator. So for this one, I'm going to label my 0 and my 1, my 0 and my 1. I'm going to break this into 3 pieces, which means the other one is going to be broken up into the same. I'm marking my first fraction right here. That is 1/3. I'm marking my second fraction right here. This is 2/3. Again, remember we're using the same denominator for both fractions. So I'm comparing 1/3 and 2/3. By looking at my number lines, I can tell that 1/3 is much closer to the 0 than the 2/3. That means that 1/3 is less than 2/3. Now I'm going to put it in words. Like I just showed on my number line, 1/3 is less than 2/3. So now your notes should look like this. We showed 4 different representations of our fractions, all of them with the same denominator, but a different numerator. So remember that when you have the same denominator, the number that's really going to tell you whether it's greater than or less than is the numerator, because both fractions should be broken up into the same amount of pieces. So you just need to look to see how many are represented in the first fraction compared to the second fraction. Make sure that you have all your notes written down. Don't forget that you should watch the video one more time, this time without pausing, so you can pay a little closer attention to what was being said and what was being shown. And don't forget to answer your reflection question. Thanks, bye.